There are players who dominate through power, through pace, through the sheer physical force of their presence. And then there are players who dominate through something far harder to see, far harder to explain, far harder to defend against. Andrés Iniesta dominated through genius. And this is his story. Welcome back to The Last Boot, the channel where football is more than a game. It is emotion. It is history. It is the human story behind every goal and every heartbreak. I am so glad you are here today. If you are new here, please subscribe and join the Last Boot family. We are growing every single day and I do not want you to miss a single story. Today we are talking about the player that opponents could never quite catch, crowds could never quite explain, and football will never quite forget. Andrés Iniesta, the Invisible Man. Let us continue. Andrés Iniesta Luján was born on the 11th of May 1984 in Fuentealbilla, a tiny village in the region of Castilla-La Mancha in Spain with a population of just a few hundred people. His father José was a bricklayer and part-time barman. His mother Maria ran the family bar. Life was simple, quiet, rooted in the rhythms of a small community where everybody knew everybody. And then the Scouts came. At 12 years old, after dominating a youth tournament in a way that left every coach in attendance shaking their head in disbelief, Iniesta was invited to trial at Barcelona's La Masia Academy. He packed a bag, said goodbye to his family, and moved to the city alone, homesick, and desperately uncertain to chase something that most people from Fuentealbilla had never dared to chase. The homesickness was severe. There were nights he cried himself to sleep. Nights he wanted to go home. But something kept him there. Some quiet, stubborn belief that this was where he was supposed to be. And he was right. At La Masia, alongside a young Xavi Hernandez, Iniesta developed into something the academy coaches had rarely seen. A player of impossible close control. A player who could receive the ball in the tightest spaces, turn in the smallest of areas, and deliver it with a precision and creativity that seemed to belong to a different sport. He was small. He was not particularly fast. He was not physically imposing in any way. And he was completely unplayable. He made his Barcelona debut in 2002 at 18 years old. And for the next 16 years, 16 extraordinary, historic, beautiful years, he was the heartbeat of the greatest club side in the history of Spanish football. The trophies accumulated in a way that barely felt real. 9 La Liga titles, 4 Champions League trophies, 6 Copa del Rey victories. And alongside Xavi in that famous midfield partnership that redefined what possession football could look like, Iniesta was part of the most complete, the most dominant, the most aesthetically breathtaking team most people had ever seen. But it was with Spain that Iniesta wrote his most permanent chapter in football history. In 2008, Spain won the European Championship. In 2010 they won the World Cup. In 2012 they won the European Championship again. 3 consecutive major international titles. Something no other nation had ever achieved. And at the heart of every single one of those tournaments, quiet, precise, completely indispensable, was Andrés Iniesta. The 2010 World Cup final in Johannesburg. Spain vs the Netherlands. 116 minutes played. The score still 0-0. And then a ball played through the Dutch defense. Iniesta. One touch to control. One swing of his right boot. Goal. Spain won the World Cup for the first time in their history. And Iniesta, the boy from the tiny village of Fuentealbilla, was the man who gave it to them. He pulled off his shirt. Underneath, a message for his friend Danny Yark, a fellow footballer who had died of a heart attack the previous year. In the greatest moment of his career, Iniesta thought of someone else. That told you everything about who he was. He left Barcelona in 2018 for Vissel Kobe in Japan, where he played for 5 more years, bringing joy to a new continent, winning a domestic cup, and being celebrated with the kind of warmth that suggested the Japanese fans understood exactly what they had been given. He retired in 2023. Quietly. Without drama. Exactly as he had always played. Andrés Iniesta. The invisible man. The player who never sought the spotlight and yet somehow always ended up in the most important moment of the most important match. The boy from Fuentealbilla who gave Spain the world. That is it for today's story on The Last Boot. If this video moved you, please give it a big thumbs up. Share this with every football fan you know. Hit subscribe and join the Last Boot family. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video. Until then, keep the passion alive.